Today, I want to talk about the costs associated with writing and publishing your book. When potential clients come to me, they either come to me in one of two ways. One way, they're like, I'm ready to publish my book, but I'm nervous about investing and want to make sure that I'm making the right decision because I have limited resources and I'm on a tight budget. Or they come to me and they've been taken advantage of. They've given all their money to different companies who've done a piss poor job of publishing their book. And so today I want to walk you through the real costs associated with publishing so that in turn you can avoid some of these pitfalls. The first thing that I want to say is that I know that it can be scary giving an investment to writing your book. And while I know on the back end that investing in your book has a long-term benefit, sometimes it's hard to see that on the front side. And so here's what I want to say. Any investment that you make into yourself or into your success or towards your goals is never a waste, because even if it doesn't turn out the way that you want it to, you still had an opportunity to learn. So if you've already taken a hit with the publishing process, I'm going to teach you what you should be looking forward to so that you can have success. And if you haven't started, I'm also going to be teaching you the same thing so that you can work through this process seamlessly and without the overwhelm. To self-publish or to indie publish your book typically can be a big investment up front. For most, it's somewhere between $2,000 to $4,000. And while that sounds like a big hit up front, understand that the long-term benefit far outweighs that if you do it right. You open up the opportunity to have speaking engagements, to create courses, to create workbooks, to be featured, to sell your book all around the world, to make a difference, and to get extra royalties on top of that. And so that's something to consider as you're thinking of this upfront cost and as you're considering saving. The first initial cost that most authors run into is editing. And while it's tempting to kind of skimp editing, you're like, well, I can proofread. I'm a pretty good reader. Or I can have a friend or a family member proofread. I want to tell you that your work is a representation of you. And the last thing that you want to skimp out on is editing, because that's going to reflect in the way that your content is read by your ideal reader. There was a Game of Thrones episode. I'm not a big TV watcher, but it was all the rave and all over the news. And they were talking about a Starbucks cup that was featured in the Game of Thrones. And while that would have been okay in an episode of The Office or okay in the episode of Law and Order, when you're thinking of medieval times, it's important that you align with that topic. And so think about your book like that. If your book is a fiction book in medieval times and you accidentally have some kind of content or verbiage that doesn't align with medieval times, it's going to throw your reader off. If your book is a nonfiction book and you're writing about personal development, finances, or wellness, or healing, or whatever, but your content is off, or the editing is bad, or the punctuation is off, it's going to be difficult for your reader to follow you. The last thing you want someone to do is to invest in your book and have a hard time reading through it because of poor editing or poor proofreading. So do not skimp out on this chance. Do not skimp out on the opportunity for your book to have feedback, for your book to be updated, because again, it's representing you and what you believe your book is worth. So there's different kind of editors. There is a copy editor, which edits for copy, for the content in the book. There's a developmental editor that edits for copy, as well as the flow and the structure of the book, as well as grammar and punctuation. There's proofreading editing. So this is where you have someone in your ideal market read it, proofread it, and let you know what they gain from the book. And then there's grammar editing. So that this is where you're looking at punctuation, commas, exclamation points, and periods. All of those editing are important components to your total book. I always recommend having someone proofread it. I always recommend having grammar editing done. And I always recommend having developmental editing done. Because while you could think that the book flows really well, sometimes having an objective participant or an objective viewer look through your book and say, you know what, it would be great if you added in a paragraph here to help bridge this chapter from this chapter. Or it would be great if you moved this around a little bit. Just having that feedback is going to put you in a position to succeed. One of the best ways that you can save money on editing costs in general is to do your research. Never just go with the first editor that you see and say, all right, well, this is who I'm going to go with. Look at the market, see what people are typically charging, see how many revisions you're going to get, see what's involved in the editing process, and most importantly, see work that they've done before. Ask them how much experience do they have with that? Have they had success, where their struggles are, and what they hope to achieve in working with you on your manuscript. Currently, the going rates for developmental editing is about $7 per page, and copy editing is about $5 per page. Proofreading can be on the lower end of the scale, and grammar editing, sometimes you can get away with buying a program such as Grammarly, buying the advanced version that will do some of the grammar and punctuation editing for you. Now, again, some editors base it on words, some editors base it on page count. The point is you want to do as much research as possible so you put yourself in a position to make an informed decision. The next thing that people invest money in on the book writing and publishing process are book covers. And I'm just going to be real with you. Books are judged by their cover. Whether you're looking on Amazon or you're in Barnes and Nobles, you're looking for a book that speaks to you. And that encompasses every part of it. What does the cover design have on it? What is the title of the book? Does that speak to you? What does the synopsis say? And does that stand out to you? Do you know the author? Are you familiar with this author? All of that is a part of the book writing process. And it's one of the most important components of marketing. So you want to be very careful about skimping out on a good book. When I first started out, my very first book, I decided to get it designed on Fiverr. And to be honest, I paid $5 for it, and the cover looked like my 6-year-old drew it. It was awful. And so I could have said, yeah, this is a cover. I paid money and I invested. And it doesn't matter because the content is in the book. I'm still going to sell it. But to be honest, nobody ever would have gotten past the cover in order to be able to read the content. So you need your cover to speak to your audience. It is so important that you find a quality designer. Now, on the flip side, I've had a client before that was amazing and very well versed at Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, and he was able to make his entire cover because that's what he did for a living. My uncle is now a police officer, but he studied graphic design, and so I was able to cut costs with my first and second book cover and pay him to do that. Now, if you're really well versed in Photoshop, or your husband is, or your uncle is, or somebody and you can cut costs, the biggest thing that I can say is make sure you're specific with your expectations with the cover. Some of my clients will take this opportunity to become well-versed in Canva or in Photoshop. And if you're comfortable and you think that your cover is going to sell, you may take that route. Understand that with ebooks and with actual print books, the covers are going to be priced different. And so a lot of times with ebooks, people can get away with the Canva cover because it's just one part of the cover. But when you're doing a print book, you have to think of the cover, you have to think of the synopsis, where your picture fits, where the design fits, where the spine is going to fit. So there are a lot of important things as far as measurements and sizing. And so all of that goes into it. So if you'd like to take the work off of yourself and the pressure off of yourself with being perfect with this process and hire someone who's had success, you can consider hiring a cover designer. These prices can range anywhere from like $300 all the way up to $1,000, with like a novice designer typically being around $300 to $500, and then an expert designer being upwards of $1,000. You get to look at their work and determine what fits for you. And that's the one thing you want to do. You want to ask them, what other books have you published? Can I see the covers? How and what do you think about that? Ask yourself, do you like the cover? Does it align with what you believe? Do you think that this person could create a cover for you? Another thing you want to consider with a cover designer is you want to determine the number of edits and revisions that they're going to allow in your contract. Typically, the more edits or revisions they give you, the more it's going to cost you. So most cover designers will allow you to have somewhere between 2 to 4 or 5 edits or revisions on your cover, which means it's even more important that you take the time to make sure you know what you want. Consider color schemes, consider the designs, consider font, consider all of that, because the more specific you are, the less likely you'll have to go through multiple revisions. Another cost that typically comes up on the book writing and publishing process is formatting. Now, I'm going to be honest. Because books are judged by their cover, and that's the first thing people see, sometimes you can get away with an amateur formatting job. Now, I don't mean that half of the paragraph is on one page and the other half is on another page, or each page only has 1 or 2 words because you haven't spaced your paragraph correctly. But if you have a mistake or two, people are genuinely a little bit more forgiving, because by the time they notice a mistake or two, they've already gotten a majority of the content. They've already seen what you've invested in the cover, and they're more inclined to be forgiving of that. And so you have a lot of options with formatting. You could hire someone that would help you with formatting. And typically that can range somewhere between $100 to $500 to have someone help you with formatting. With cookbooks and children's books, I highly recommend it, because a lot of times there's pictures and you want to make sure that things are aligned, the content as well as the picture. And I know for me, when I did my planner, that was the most tedious and overwhelming task of all. I think it took me longer to format my planner than it did to actually write the content in my planner, because there was just so many lines and so many spaces. And so looking back, I learned a lot from that experience, but I think it would have saved me time, and it would have been helpful for me to hire someone that was able to help me format it. I did it. And so I say all of that to say that you are very capable of formatting your book. Now, because, self-publishing is all the rage, Amazon KDP, which is their publishing company called Kindle Direct Publishing, actually has templates that you can download totally for free. So if you just Google Amazon KDP templates, you will find templates. And based on the size of your book, 6x9, 5x8, 8x11, whatever you want, you can download that particular template and pull your work over to that. Now, understand that the process of formatting is tedious, but if you're looking to save costs up front, that's one of the costs that you can afford to remove if you're willing to put in the work. Another cost associated with writing and publishing your book is marketing and publicity. A lot of people will ask what the difference is. Marketing encompasses all parts of you sharing and trying to get your book into the hands of your ideal reader, while publicity is more so focused on media coverage and how you can connect and be seen more in the media. And so the best thing for yourself that you can do is to create a marketing plan. Where do you think your ideal reader would be, and how can you get in front of them? One of the best ways to save costs is to use yourself as a person that markets. And I say this for everybody. When you put in the effort, the energy, and the work into your book, you should be confident of your book. And you should constantly be thinking of ways that you can continuously market your book. You can maximize marketing your book by creating a blog or using a blog you already have and driving traffic to there. You can use a video blog like YouTube and drive traffic there. You can also use social media to your benefit. Social media has been one of my biggest platforms for marketing. So on Facebook, I'll go into various groups, or on Instagram and Facebook, I will share different lives. Even TikTok, I've used TikTok to share things about my book. You can post things, but what you'll understand is that the more you talk about the book, the more it becomes in the forefront of people's mind. A lot of people get really uncomfortable with the marketing process because it feels overwhelming. But if you allow it to just be a natural part of your experience, you'll start to become more creative with your marketing. You also have the option of hiring a marketing specialist if you don't know where to begin. And typically what marketing specialists will do is they'll use metadata, like Google Analytics and keywords, to help drive traffic to your site or drive traffic to your social media. They'll use social media ads or campaigns, public ads or campaigns, to really help you to get into the limelight. These are things that you could learn to do and structure accordingly, but it doesn't hurt to have an extra support person on your team. Remember, like I said in the beginning of the video, nothing that you invest into yourself is a waste. It's an opportunity for you to grow and for you to learn and for you to remember that you deserve investments in the same way that we give to everything and everyone else. And so I'm impressed with you to be on this journey. I'm proud of you that you're considering all of your options. And I hope that this video was informative to help you move forward and make a decision that's going to be most aligned, not only with your budget, but also with your goals. Until next time, I'll chat with you guys later.